Hi there folks, welcome to Dunsy's Guitar World, and my apologies it's taken me so long to get this video together. So a couple of weeks ago I posted a video saying if anybody wants to ask me any questions I'll be more than happy to answer them, so here we go. Now I might split this video into two parts because if you've watched any of my stuff before I do find it quite hard to shut up at times, so I don't want to take up your entire day in one video. And to the people who've asked me the questions, thank you so much. I was really pleased that I got so many. What I'll do is I'll put a link down below to each of the channels of everybody that asked me a question. Thanks again. Question 1 from Crimson Avenger. Hi Dunsy, are you self-taught and can you read the dots? I am self-taught. I have absolutely no idea how to read music. I believe the spaces in between the bars spell face. Other than that, I have no clue. Although I'm saying I'm self-taught, but I did, for about 3 months, I went to a guitar tutor who was my next door neighbour's granddad. So this was 1980, end of 1980 or something, 1981. And so I went to him. He was this old guy who had a beautiful old Hofner semi-acoustic, like a 335 copy. And he was just a cool old guy, just a wee old guy. He always had a shirt and tie on. And I remember he always had a can of Carlsberg Special Brew on top of his wardrobe. And he'd have a slug out of that. And he showed me a few basic chords. But it all went wrong. I bought a songbook and it had UFO, Motorhead, Saxon, someone else had 4 bands in it. And I took it along to him. And he read the music and he just read the melody line. And I remember him playing Overkill on this old Hofner acoustic, and he was just playing Lemmy's melody, vocal melody on this guitar, and he was going overkill, oh dear. And then it went one step worse. The Birdie song, I'll put a link to the Birdie song, voted I think the worst song of all time. It came out in the UK in 1981, and he said to me in my last lesson, he said, when you come next week I'll show you the Birdie song. That song is in the charts just now. And I never went back, and since then I just learned by playing along to records. But the Birdie song, jeez. See, I told you if I answer all these questions with this sorry answer I'll be here all day. Question 2. Alex B Music UK. Great singer Alex. Link down below. What is the best ever gig you've been to watch? It's a difficult one. I mean, when you get to this age, there's a lot of things. I mean, A, you forget loads of stuff, and B, your memory's shrouded in all these childhood things where you're probably not remembering things correctly. But I think the 2 gigs I'll say are the best 2 gigs were Motley Crue and Cheap Trick on the same bill. February 1986 in Edinburgh. A huge Crue fan, huge Cheap Trick fan. To see them on the same bill, just incredible. And then later on, 1992, I went to see Sugar at the Edinburgh venue, and it was packed, maybe 400 or 500 people in a really small venue, and we were about 3 rows back in front of Bob Mole's guitars, and it was just, I mean, it just changed my guitar playing life. Honestly, it was just the Sugar album and then going to see Bob, just brilliant, absolutely incredible. More on Bob Mole later. Question 3 from Shred with Dignity, link down below to the young man's channel. Could you do a cover of Death or Glory by Scottish thrash metal band Holocaust? Yes, I could do that, and I will do. Question 4 from Adam Burse, Adam's channel down there. What guitar have you bought recently or reviewed recently that surprised you the most? And it would have to be this. The Harley Benton Bronze Top. I mean, I think it's better now. It's got Seymour Duncan's in it, but yeah, a really nice guitar. When I got the Double Cut Junior, I thought that was a nice guitar as well. But I would say, I mean, this one was almost half the price of the Double Cut Junior. But I think this is a better guitar. I mean, I'm more of a traditional single cut type, traditional Les Paul, and it's cost under £100. Nice guitar. So this is the one I've been surprised with the most. I mean, would it have been half the price of the double cut? I thought it would be maybe half as good, but in my humble opinion, I think this is a better guitar. So this is definitely the guitar I've been most surprised about recently. Moving on. Next question from James Johnson77. Link down there. Who's your favourite guitarist, and on the other hand, one that you feel is massively overrated? Favourite guitarist, I mean, that's difficult. I mean, poor Eddie Van Halen passing away this week as well. I mean, huge Eddie Van Halen fan. I mean, I don't play anything that's even remotely as good as Eddie Van Halen, but a huge fan. I mean, like anybody who, I wouldn't have heard Van Halen 1 till probably 1980, but anybody who, when they first listened to that album as a young guitar player, was blown away by Eddie. So I mean, a huge fan of Eddie. I mean, probably my first guitar hero as such would have been Hendrix. I think even before I got a guitar, I mean, when I first started listening to heavy metal and stuff like that, it was then I was really drawn to Hendrix. I think I saw him doing a version of Johnny B. Good from Blackpool on the old Grey Whistle test, and I was just could not believe what he was doing. It was just great. But then I sort of moved on to the more heavy metal players. But who's my favourite? Style-wise, I mean, I love Joe Perry. Joe's got such a good feel, timing, and he's got a real attitude and a real. It's hard to describe, you know. He's got a real fluid style, quite funky, especially in the Joe Perry project. I love Joe. And I'd mentioned Bob Mould earlier, and after seeing Sugar, it was, you know, the big power chords that Bob's. It's good I'm always playing guitar. The big first position power chords that Bob's using, brilliant. Love Sugar. So he's another big influence as well. But I mean, I could name about 100, but I would probably go with Joe Perry's probably my favourite player, style look, and just everything about him. Cool. Next up, from Raven Mad, my good friend. What's your number one axe? I'll tell you. This is my 1965 Gibson Melody Maker. Now, it's been through the wars. I mean, this weighs about 5.5 pounds. I mean, it's so light, so resonant as well. It's been completely customised, completely changed. These didn't come with humbuckers, came with single coils. So these things was converted in 1970. It's got 1970 T-tops in it. This toggle switch has been put on up here. So I mean, it's been completely changed. The whole bridge has been changed. I mean, it's anything but original. But I love this guitar. It's A, so light, B, so resonant, and C, it's just so easy to play. I mean, I even take, when I'm doing pub covers gigs, I sometimes take this as well, you know. I'm playing in an old pub full of steaming people, drunk people, as we say outside of Scotland. Drunk people falling about everywhere, and I'm using my vintage Gibson guitar. But the good thing about this one is, I mean, it's not like if I scratch it, I'm going to notice it. Actually, I've got a video about guitars which are intentionally made to look older. I'm going to do that video in a wee while. So yes, my favourite number one axe or guitar is my 1965 Gibson Melody Maker. Next up, from Clayton B. If you have to name one album that changed your life, what would it be? Could I name two? Could I name two albums? But I'm going to name three. Name three albums. The first one would be Brick Steel by Judas Priest. This came out in 1980. So I'm a young 13, 14-year-old metalhead, and they were on Top of the Pops. Judas Priest were on Top of the Pops, and they had been on previously. With Breaking the Law, Living After Midnight, and United. So I mean, you would tune into BBC TV on a Thursday night, and you see Judas Priest, bands like Priest, Saxon. If you're going to have a top 10 best metal albums of all time, I would have to suggest that you have British Steel by Judas Priest. And I mean, this is the epitome of heavy metal, and I loved it. It was just great, jamming along to these tunes on an acoustic guitar with 5 strings, out of tune. I thought I could conquer the world. And album number 2, No Sleep Till Hammersmith by legendary Motorhead. What a great band. I mean, and the thing about this one was, when this came out, I went to the shop, I'd saved up my school dinner money, school lunch money, and I got this on the day it came out, and it went straight into number 1 in the UK album charts. And you felt like you were part of a movement, you know, you felt like you were really part of something. It was like, I've helped the album get to number 1, and you know, when you had your denim jacket on with your patches and stuff on the back, you felt like you were part of a tribe. It was good, loved it. And finally, the last one, which is on CD over there somewhere, Copper Blue by Sugar, which came out 1991, I think it was, 1992. And as I said earlier on, Bob Mould, I had heard Husker Du and I enjoyed them, but hearing the first Sugar album, I was completely blown away by the melody, just the force of the music, you know. It's just the energy of the music as well, and Bob's songwriting skills. It completely changed my guitar playing style. I mean, really did. I started using much more open chords. A bit like Alex Lifeson, he has sort of suspended chords quite a lot, and he has the top 2 strings ringing open quite a bit. So I mean, Rush, Bob Mould, doesn't get much better than that. This one's from the Mike Young Band. Mike's down below. Can you look at a video on YouTube from Australian band Stars, songs Mighty Rock, and tell me how at the end of the main solo in the middle of the song, how does he hold that note so long? I've never seen anybody hold a note that long. Thanks, Mike. Well, I had a look at it and I couldn't find any live version. I could only find them miming along on the TV. I'll play a wee clip at the bit that Mike's talking about here. I don't know, I mean, this is the 70s and you can do that now, I mean, with sustainer pedals and stuff like that, but was this 76 or something? I don't think they had, I wouldn't imagine they had a sustainer pedal. I reckon that must have been done in the studio. I mean, that must be a studio effect. I don't imagine they had the technology to make a pedal that would do that at that time. I might be wrong, but my opinion is it must be a studio effect added on after he had recorded the guitar. That's what I think. Good question though, Mike. Good question. Next up, from Jim at Solar Guitar Studio, link down below. Jim does some incredible work. I mean, how he describes his recording processes is second to none. I've never seen anybody who's so detailed about how he gets such good sounds. Brilliant. Jim says, you're part of the PC family, Windows 10. Indeed I am. What DAW are you using and are you happy with your software? I'm using Ableton Studio, the whole Ableton Studio Suite, the full sort of version. I first used it when I got a sound card. I got this red sound card here, the Focusrite Scarlett 2i4 or something like that, and it came with Ableton Lite 10, and one of my friends had the full suite and he decided to stop using it and he gave me the license, so I've been using that for about the last 4 or 5 years. Previous to that I used Cubase SX or Cubase 3.1, God knows when that was. Am I happy with it? Yes. It took a wee while to work Ableton out. I mean, I use it like an 8-track recorder, like my old Fostex tape thing. I mean, I just use it like that. I have drums at the top and then the bass, and then I just add stuff. I mean, I don't do hundreds of effects and stuff. I like to get the guitar sound before it goes into the DAW. I use my Moore GE150 and I spend a lot of time getting the sound right on that, so I don't have to do much when I get it in. I mean, I don't put much reverb on the original track, and I'll tend to put the reverb on later on, maybe the chorus as well. So I try to get the overdriven sound correct before I go anywhere else. So yes, I'm reasonably happy with it. I mean, I'd love to have a big studio set up, but I'm working out of my spare room in my house, surrounded by my family and my pets. So I have finite resources and a finite amount of room I can take up. So I mean, I'm happy just using Windows 10 on a laptop, and I've got a bigger sound card now. I've got a Focusrite 18i20, but I just use 2 inputs on it, and I just record one thing at a time, and I think I've recorded 4 albums worth of material here and released 4 of them, so it can be done. It's perhaps not perfect, but it can be done. Next up from Jimmy, A Guitar Meets Science. What a player Jimmy is. Loved working on the collaboration Jimmy and I did. It was just effortless working with Jimmy. He's such a good guitar player. Link down below. My question would be, who are your biggest influences of all time? Going back to probably Joe Perry. I was a big Rush fan as well when I was a kid. Rush, and then Skinner. You see my Southern Rock video. Skinner, the 3 guitar players, all their different styles as well. UFO, huge UFO fan as well. I was more into UFO with Paul Chapman to begin with, and then discovered them with Michael thereafter. So I mean, people like that in the last 20 years, I don't think, I've got to a stage in life where when someone sends me a link to some new bit of music, my default setting is go, it's probably not as good as UFO. I won't even bother listening to it. So I mean, I don't know any guitar players from the last 20 years. The last person who really influenced me would have been Bob Mould. And this is the last one for part 1, because I've been yabbering on for about 15 minutes now. This is from Andy Cloudy Milder. Last time I saw Andy was at a girls' school gig in Edinburgh. I mean, when was that? So long since I've been at a gig, I can't even remember. And Andy said, not so much of a question but a request, let's meet up for a gig and a beer once this all blows over. Andy, I will take you up on that offer. And there's a link to Andy's channel down below. He's a huge vinyl collector. You should check out his stuff, very interesting. So that's it, part 1 folks. I'll get back with part 2 once I've finished this video. Thank you once again for all the questions. I've really enjoyed that, and I hope I've answered to the best of my ability, and I have answered your question. Cheers for now.